Hello, class. This is Friday, October 2nd, and this is Professor Barbara Wyman, English 401. And in preparation for your first test, which will be, of course, open book, and I've got it figured out what y'all will need to do, and I'll write that in an email when I post the test, but don't worry. But this is the last thing I wanted to do is go over Lysistrata, the bawdy comedy, to finish off our Greek world, the literature of our Greek antiquity. So to do that, I wanted to show you this map. It's better than the map that's in the book because it focuses just on the ancient Mediterranean. So this top part is the Mediterranean Sea. It's kind of hard to see it like this, but if we were in class, I would have handed this out to you. But the Mediterranean Sea is the location of both the Greek and Roman Empire, or the countries surrounding it. The Greek civilization was older when it was a dominant civilization, and it grew up around the early city-states of what we now call Greece. It wasn't called Greece back then. And we've been reading the literature of ancient Greece, and then the Holy Lands over here to the far eastern edge of the Mediterraneans. There's Tyre and Sidon, Mount Sinai, Jerusalem. So you see that the eastern portion of the Mediterranean Sea is where the Holy Lands are located. Here's the Tigris and Euphrates, cradle of civilization, the Babylonian Empire, one of the early empires. And then, so the Mediterranean Sea is surrounded by the countries, most of them we know as European countries, but it's also Northern Africa, the Holy Lands, and up into modern-day Turkey, which is where Troy was. I'll show that to you on the other map. But in the area we now call Greece, which is to the east of Rome, or Italy, excuse me, Greece is it's not as well formed as Italy, but you can see Ithaca, which is where Odysseus is from. Delphi is where Apollo's important oracle is. Here's the Aegean Sea. Across the Aegean Sea is Troy. Okay, so that's in modern day Turkey. At the bottom chunk of Greece is this area that it's not quite separate from Greek mainland. There's Macedonia, where Alexander the Great is from. This is called the Peloponnesus. The Peloponnesus is where Athens and Sparta were located, and Lysistrata is a comedy that pits the Athenians versus the Spartans, and that's why it's called the Peloponnesian War. So let me slide down to this map. This is a map that shows more detail. So here's the Aegean Sea. Here you can see the Isle of Lesbos, where Sappho wrote and lived. Here is the Peloponnesus. This is where Sparta is located, and Athens is right here. So city-states were separate kingdoms. They had different rulers, and oftentimes they had whole different ideas of governance. So Athens, named after Athena, where the Parthenon is, they were highly sophisticated in arts, and tragedy is where democracies developed. They're known for where the tragedies were performed in the Theater to Dionysus. They believed in well-rounded populace. And so Aeschylus, who wrote Agamemnon, was both a soldier and a poet. He fought in the Battle of Marathon. So Athens was highly civilized, but it was still knew that fighting was important. You may have heard of Athens versus Sparta. Sparta was another really powerful city-state right here. But Sparta is different than Athens because they didn't believe in art or any of those things that they thought made the populace soft and weak. And so there was no art or any of that kind of training. They were all trained in physical fitness, and they wanted to be good warriors. So the Spartans took the kids away when they were young to form them in their physical attributes. If a child was defective, he was put to death. Spartans are really fascinating. It's where we get the adjective a Spartan room or whatnot. A Spartan room means it's very plain and bare without many adornments. So Sparta and Athens fought a lot, and Sparta was trying to overthrow Athens, and Athens was trying to protect itself. So the comedy Lysistrata, or Lysistrata is another way to pronounce it, is going to make fun of the Spartans because the comedy writer Aristophanes wants to make protest literature against this long-lasting Peloponnesian War between Athens and Sparta. Now I'm going to bring my book up here. We looked at, I think, at this briefly, and it's on what page is this? Page 7 in Volume A, and it gives a nice timeline. Because after we finish this test 1, we're going to move into the Roman period, and of course the Roman period will still be based around the Mediterranean, just focus on the Roman Empire after the Greek Empire collapses with the death of Alexander the Great, and allows the Roman army to take over the portions of the Greek Empire that they were able to march across and take. And then the Roman Empire expands, but that's test 2. So test 1 is antiquity, focused on Greek literature, which is our earliest literature, before Roman literature. So on this page, here are the things that we have talked about. You can see the dates. The book of Job, and up here in 950 BC is the Genesis. Genesis was written. I don't have to worry about that. Genesis in the Old Testament, that's considered Eastern literature. The Holy Land is. And then the book of Job is 900 BC. And then the Iliad and the Odyssey, we usually say circa around 800 or 850 BC. We're not quite sure. So that's one of the oldest works of literature in the Greek world, because the Old Testament would be more in the east, where Jerusalem is, and over there. So we skip from the Iliad to the Odyssey. Our next oldest is, we covered Sappho, so 700 to 600 BC. So Sappho, we just have fragments of her poetry, and I've already talked about her, but I wanted to put her on the timeline. So she's super early. And then we're going to move down, and here are the tragedians. They come quite a bit later. 458, there's Aeschylus. Okay, Aeschylus wrote Agamemnon. And then we have Euripides, who wrote Medea. So y'all are, kind of went over these two. And Herodotus was the one who was the historian. Sophocles, Oedipus the King, we do that in English 221. And here is Aristophanes. So he lived at about the same time as the tragedians, but he wrote comedy. And he's important because he's the only person who, his comedies are the only ones who last from antiquity. Most of the other ones, just didn't make it through all the thousands of years. But his were so popular, even back in the day, that we still have them. He's the only comedy writer from ancient Greece that we have. So now I'm going to flip in the book to Lysistrata. And if you notice on the reading list, I have an opt-out for this. And the reason why, obscene and witty, larded with topical jokes, satire, and mockery, directed toward an Athenian audience, he's going to be poking fun of the Spartans. And it is obscene. And so usually I give a student an opt-out, and you have an opt-out now, but you may look at it if you want to. It's super important because it's protest literature against this long-running Peloponnesian War. A lot of times students have the misconception that because something comes from olden times, that they're all straight-laced and proper, when it's actually the contrary, as we'll find in the Roman period. They were very, well, a lot of their literature was obscene. So it says that Aristophanes wasn't even illegal to translate for a while. I mean, it's not that bad. But the thing that makes it funny, and I'll just tell you this in a not racy way, is that the women are going to be the ones who try to stop this war. And the way they're going to do that, the Athenian women and the Spartan women are going to decide that they are going to withhold the marital embrace from their husbands until the war stops. And so all of the comedy has to do with that. But the thing I wanted to point out is that if you turn to this page, the Lysistrata is a woman, and she and her friends are going to cook up this scheme, and they're going to lock themselves in the treasury so the men can't have the marital embrace or money to try to stop the war. So it's really very modern, because the women are going to be the ones who are going to outthink the men. Okay, Lampito is a Spartan woman, and so Aristophanes makes fun of the Spartans because he has the Athenians having, normal, lovely speech, but he makes Lampito have bad grammar because she's a Spartan and hasn't been to school. She's but she's really fit. So let's see. Let's see when they describe. Let me see if I can find one that's not too racy. When they describe Lampito, so Lysistrata says down here, Lampito, darling, greetings from us all. What a gorgeous specimen, you lovely thing. Your healthy skin. What firmness of physique. And Lampito, in her not very good English, says, is not possible. I go to gym. I make my buttocks hard. So that's enough like that. That's enough of this one. Anyway, let me shut the book. So that is the, put my map back. That is a little bit of an overview of Aristophanes, and with that comedy, oops, it's upside down. We are going to complete this segment on the Greek of the ancient writings of around the Mediterranean over into Asia Minor, where the Holy Lands are. Okay, that's that.